Hello, Blades fans. It is that time of year again where we've got to the January transfer window. And of course, with the transfer window comes all the rumours and all the conversations that we need to have about maybe where Sheffield United will be looking to improve in this transfer window. Now, we are starting today looking at goalkeepers because there is one question that has been on everybody's lips for the last few weeks, including my own. I've been quite vocal about it a couple of times now on the channel, and that is whether or not 𝗍𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗏 is good enough for Sheffield United to try and stay in the Premier League, and even beyond that, for us to rebuild and come back to the Premier League next season, an improved version of Sheffield United. And I think we seem to think that it's time for us to move on a little bit. So let's look into performances and let's look at why we don't think Wes is the right choice at the moment for Sheffield United. Now, the one that comes out a lot, and we've seen this quite a lot this season, is that Wes is top of the league for most saves made per 90 minutes. Some people will say that that is a false equivalence. He's making these saves because of poor defending in front of him. They will say that actually not many of them have been impressive, that generally they're easy saves to make. But you still need to give him credit for what he is doing, and he is managing, for the most part, to keep the ball out of his net relatively successfully, given how much pressure he is being put under game after game. However, when you look a little bit closer into those stats, his goal prevented rate, now I know a lot of people won't believe in these kind of stats, but goals prevented takes the XG of the shots on target and compares that to the amount of goals conceded to give the goalkeeper a goal prevented rate, which effectively means they're either saving more chances than they should or they're conceding more goals than they should, given the level of chances and shots that have been faced against them. Wes has a negative in this front. He has conceded around 1.5 goals more than he should have done so far this season. He is also top of the charts when it comes to significant errors made leading to goals. I believe that stat is currently 5 errors made leading to a goal. I think he's lucky that it's not 6, given one of the ones that wasn't counted as his mistake a few weeks ago. But that's by the by. Seeing him at the top of those charts just re-emphasises why it might be time for Sheffield United to look for a new number one. So who are our options? And there are some names that are on everybody's lips at the moment. We're seeing the rumours flying around on Twitter, coming from all of our in-the-know accounts. And so let's look at who we think might be those opportunities that United are looking at to bring in a new keeper this January. Now, we'll start with Viktor Johansson. Now, anybody who's watched this channel knows that Viktor Johansson from Rotherham would be my number one choice to replace 𝗍𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 at Bramall Lane. Now, Viktor is in a similar position to 𝗍𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 in that he's the goalkeeper for the team that is bottom of the league. He is also top of those saves made per 90 charts. He is under a lot of pressure. He's constantly having shots taken against him, and he's always being relied upon because the defence in front of him isn't protecting him. But where he differs from Wes is that he has not made any significant errors so far this season leading to goals. And he also has a goals prevented rate of 2.5. So he's actually conceded less goals than you would have expected against him, meaning that he is making some of those saves that you wouldn't expect him to make. There was a game recently where Rotherham beat Middlesbrough and he was utterly outstanding. Rotherham should have lost that game 4-1. They actually won it 1-0 just because he was so unbeatable in goal. And so I think that really emphasises that actually he wins points. He has got Rotherham into a better position than they would be in otherwise. And that's why he stands out to me as one of the key options for why United should be looking to bring him in. Now, what would he look like in terms of a fee? Now, it's difficult to really guess because obviously Rotherham are in a similar position. They don't want to get relegated. They want to keep their best players around. However, I do know that Viktor Johansson has a relegation release clause, which kicks in the summer if Rotherham are relegated from the Championship to League One. I believe that to be sort of in the realms of £2.5 million, somewhere around that. Now, if that is the case, and if he is then available in January, we would likely need to go a little bit above his release clause. We need to say to Rotherham, look, he's leaving you relatively cheap in the summer. Why don't you take a little bit more money now? Let him come to us. He's settled in the area. He obviously really liked his time at Rotherham. He signed a new contract only 18 months ago to put this release clause in. And I think that shows that he's settled in South Yorkshire. He wouldn't want to move too far. And so Sheffield United really does feel like the right opportunity for the next stage of his development. It takes him from the bottom of the Championship to the top of the Championship / Premier League. It gives him a chance to break into that Sweden squad and make himself the Sweden number one rather than just being another option for them who is sort of competing with Robin Olsen and other goalkeepers who are in and around that squad. So I think he'd like that opportunity, and I think it works well for all parties. But it may be that United want to wait until the summer and activate his relegation release clause. It may be that United don't believe him to be attainable at this moment in time. So who are the other options we could look at? One, maybe potentially a short-term solution, and another one who could be the long-term goal that we are looking at. So we'll start with that short-term solution who could help us through the rest of this season and maybe another year or so beyond that. And that is, of course, the heavily rumoured Casper Schmeichel. Now, everybody is aware of Casper Schmeichel that has followed English football for any period of time. He was a massive part of that Leicester team that were so successful over the last 10 years or so. They won the title, they won the FA Cup. They were a staple at the top end of the Premier League, and he was a really key part of that. At his best, he was a commanding goalkeeper who could take charge of his area. He was capable of making fantastic reaction saves that, again, just made you think, wow, how has he kept that one out? And so he has got the pedigree of a really experienced, excellent goalkeeper. But over recent years, how has his performances been? He left Leicester 18 months ago. He had a year in France that didn't go particularly well. He wasn't continued there. Nice didn't keep him around. And so he's had to go looking for a new team. And this season he has been playing in Belgium. And he actually... The eye reports tell us that he's not doing so well. The people I've been able to speak to who have been following Belgian football, who have been able to see Casper Schmeichel this season, they say that age is catching up to him, that maybe his reflexes aren't what they were, that he's not the player he used to be, and that actually he has declined quite significantly, that his performances aren't living up to the billing, and that they would be really shocked to see him move to be the number one for a team in the Premier League. However, there is another side to this, and that is, of course, he's not passing the eye test, but the data that Casper Schmeichel has got behind him is actually quite impressive so far this season. He has the highest save percentage rate. So in terms of shots to saves made, he is the best in the Belgian league at the moment. He also has a pretty impressive 2.9 goals prevented, which means he's conceded almost 3 goals less than you would expect based on the shots on target. They are significantly higher than 𝗍𝗿𝗶𝗲 in particular, but also comparable to those of Victor Johansson, who is the player I'm shouting out as being our number one choice. Now, Casper Schmeichel would be available, we believe, on loan initially, with potentially a free transfer coming in the summer when his contract expires with his Belgian club. But whether or not that one pays off is interesting to me. I think it would be a step up. I do think there are positives out there. I think his attitude will be spot on. We saw in that Leicester team that he was dragging them forward. He's a real role model, but he was also a real leader within that squad. We saw his reaction to some terrible off-field events, that he could really rally round and bring that club together. And so I do think there are some massive positives to bringing him in, mentality-wise, and just as a leader for this Sheffield United squad, which I think we all agree is lacking in leadership and is lacking in some of those mental attributes that make teams so hard to beat and that make teams so competitive in the Premier League, as we're seeing from Luton. So there's certainly pros there, but there's also cons from those people who are telling us that his performances aren't up to scratch and that actually he has lost a step. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that one's a runner, but also whether or not that pays off and actually has a positive impact for Sheffield United. Now, the final one is another long-term target, and whether or not this is achievable will probably depend on the summer. Michael Cooper from Plymouth. Now, he's the one we always talk about because he seems to be the next big thing in goalkeeping. He was fantastic in League One for Plymouth and was a huge part of the reason they were able to get promoted from League One as champions. He was a points winner on his own with some of his performances at that level. Now, I wanted to see how he stepped up to the Championship, but he has spent most of this season injured, picked up a significant injury at the end of their League One promotion campaign. He came back for a little bit and then got injured again this December and will be out for another extended period of time. So he won't be available this January, but hopefully will be a long-term target for Sheffield United. He will be a player we try to bring into the club because I do think he could cement that number one spot for a long time to come, because he has a big future in the game, and it'd be fantastic to see more of him at Bramall Lane if possible. But unfortunately, it has to go on the back burner due to the injury that he has picked up. thank you very much for joining me for this video. And let me know who you'd like to see between the sticks for Sheffield United. Do you think we're being harsh and WES should get the rest of this season because we can rebuild in the summer? Do you think that actually, no, let's splash the cash, bring in Victor Johansson and really have a go at staying in the Premier League this year with an excellent number one who, even if we do go down, will continue to excel? Or do you think it's the steady hand of Casper Schmeichel that should be the one that takes Sheffield United forward, at least for the short term for his leadership qualities, but then maybe for another year if he does show us enough this season to prove that he has still got it and that he's not over the hill, as some are suggesting, in Belgium? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Drop a like on the video if you can, because we massively appreciate it. And I hope you've all had a good new year so far. Up the Blades.